Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to another episode of the Moonshine and Motorsports podcast. The Johnston County Heritage Center has just about everything you could possibly want if you're doing historical research about the area in and around Smithfield, North Carolina. Todd Johnson, the center's executive director, joins us to talk about everything that the center has to offer and the memory of local legend Percy Flowers, who was once described as the king of the moonshiners. All right, well, just to start off with, tell me about the facility that you have there at the Heritage Center. How did it get started?
So we have a Johnston County Museum that just opened 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago, in the former Rose's department store building. Before that time, we had a small rotating exhibit gallery in the Johnston County Heritage Center. That's the county's history museum and library located in the former First Citizens Bank home office in downtown Smithfield.
Okay.
We had things in storage for many years, but our museum has been open for 2 years. One of the rotating exhibits that we had down the street in the Heritage Center was White Liquor and White Lies from 2016, and so we've have taken a lot of the items from that and the graphic panels from that exhibit and moved them to our new museum.
All right. Well, tell me about that exhibit, the White Liquor and White Lies. That sounds like sounds like it would be right up our alley at the Moonshine and Motorsports podcast.
Yeah. So moonshine bootlegging is a very important part of Johnston County history from way back. We have a lot of old records like last wills and testaments where they left the still to the next generation. I mean, it's just, we've had, especially in the southern part of Johnston County, there are a lot of Scottish descendants, and they brought that technology over with them across the Atlantic, and it's just been a very important part of our culture for a long time. But during the Depression years, a lot of people were struggling to survive, and making liquor was the way that they were able to put food on their table and clothes on their families' backs. And so it just became very, very important in the local culture.
All right. Well, tell me about Mr. Percy Flowers. He sounds like a character if ever there was one. That's putting it mildly, I believe.
Joshua Percy Flowers actually was born in Wilson County, but in 1903. But his parents bought a farm between Clayton and Wilson in an area called Wilders Township. Sometime I think in the 20s or maybe before that, and they lost the farm where they were about to lose the farm during the Depression. Well, by that time, Percy, their son, when he was a teenager, had left home and decided that he had had enough of trying to eke out a living through farming, and he saw that a lot of people were doing pretty well selling liquor, so he got into that business and learned the business and had already done fairly well in that business by the time the Great Depression hit. So he and his brother were actually able to go to the auction and buy the farm when it was sold during the foreclosure sale. And so his parents never lost their farm. They were able to live there the rest of their life. But he just built this huge empire. He was an incredibly intelligent businessman and knew how to, operate in that business and have property listed in other people's names so that he, was always above the law. He never, he got caught, but there was never a jury that convicted him of any liquor violations ever.
Now,
the only thing no, go ahead.
Now, how was he able to do that? That's the story that I want to know.
Well, and I only know a little part of that. All I know is what I've read and what I've been told.
Yeah.
But he was so well respected. He was just this larger than life character. He had so many friends and so many people who were loyal to him and admired him, and so he was almost immune from the law, even though what he was doing was illegal. He was financing it, but they did have evidence. I mean, there are accounts from ATF agents where they say they had plenty of evidence, but they never could find a jury of 12 anywhere in North Carolina that would convict him. So he always, anytime he was charged, he always got off free. The only time he went to prison was for a contempt of court charge.
Okay. All right. Well,
and that was late 50s.
Well, I have to ask, I tried to do a little bit of research and saw where he was evidently at one point a major contributor to one of the Baptist churches there. Now I'm Baptist, so I can tease and I can poke fun, but that's an awesome story.
Well, it's funny. Somebody who's a member of, he's deceased now, but somebody who was a longtime member of that church said that it was not actually Mr. Flowers who was a pillar of the church. It was his wife, who was a pillar of the church.
Okay.
White Oak Baptist Church up in Archer Lodge. But yeah, I don't think he was so much a pillar of the church and a big contributor, but his wife was very involved in the church.
Hey, listen, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Well, it was in the Saturday Evening Post, and that's been quoted many times. In 1958, there was a feature called King of the Moonshiners, and Mr. Flowers, was featured. And that was one of the things that was told in that story, was that he was a pillar of White Oak Baptist Church. But the historians of White Oak Baptist Church will probably tell you a different story.
Well, like I just said, never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Actually, there was another church in that community, Thanksgiving Baptist Church, just up the road on Highway 42. They actually, I don't know when it was, I think maybe it was in the 1960s, 50s or 60s, but they actually adopted a formal resolution against his activities. And
okay.
So, that kind of puts a little different spin on it. I'm sure that he was undaunted by that, but anyway, nonetheless.
All right. Well,
Baptists and liquor usually don't go together pretty well.
Well, at least not that we'll talk about or admit.
Exactly. Yeah, you always heard that story about that. The difference between Baptists and Methodists. The Methodists will say hello in the liquor store. The Baptists won't.
You mentioned just a second ago the Saturday Evening Post story. How did that play into building the legend of Mr. Flowers?
Oh, I'm sure that, it went viral, as they say, back in the 50s. I think he was certainly known, very well known, locally and regionally, back in the, by the late 50s. But when that story came out, everybody knew. He's very well known all up and down the East Coast. I had a friend who used to take tour groups to New York City, and she said she was in a restaurant one time, and the waiter found out the group was from Johnston County, and some of them were ordering drinks, and he said, "Well, I just want you to know we don't have any of that Percy Flowers stuff here." The waiter in New York City knew, when they heard Johnston County, they knew who Percy Flowers was. I mean, he had a very large empire. People don't realize just how extensive his operations were. He had people, working for him and all over the place. Brunswick County, Johnston County, up and down the eastern seaboard. He had people up in the Philadelphia area, New Jersey, New York, and points in between, running liquor for Mr. Percy. And I talk to people all the time. Yes, my granddaddy used to drive, used to run liquor for Mr. Percy, or my uncle did. And I hear it almost on a weekly basis.
Right. Well, listen, I'm from Yadkin County, North Carolina, which is just right next door to Wilkes County, which bills itself the moonshine capital of the world. And I'm not too sure what Junior Johnson would have thought of Percy Flowers calling himself the king of the moonshiners. All right. So there's a little bit of ownership there.
I think I think it was the Saturday Evening Post that dubbed him King of the Moonshiners. I don't know that he would have called himself King of the Moonshiners.
All right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. Is there anything, I guess my final question would be this. Johnston County is obviously so much more than Percy Flowers. The museum there is so much more than Percy Flowers. A lot of genealogical records there, from what I understand, birth records and all that kind of thing. What would you like for people around the state to know about Johnston County?
Well, Johnston County has traditionally been a rural area. Farming has always been very important, but now it's one of the fastest growing counties in the country, and it's changing very quickly. But people still want to be known as warm and friendly country people who value family and community and their churches and schools, and that's kind of what Johnston County wants to be remembered for. We don't want to be remembered for as a bootleg capital or we're okay if Wilkes County wants to claim that. That's perfectly fine with us. We've had a lot of folks in this county who have made their livings in that business over the years, and I'm probably related to some of them, so I understand it kept them afloat in tough times. But we're okay if Wilkes County wants to claim that. It's okay. I will say this: when they passed state prohibition in 1908, Johnston County had the highest majority voting against prohibition. Wilkes County came in second. So,
awesome.
Johnston County was called the Banner Whiskey County of North Carolina in 1908, but not so much anymore.
All right, good deal. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm glad that we were able to get together today. So,
sure thing.
All right, man.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, you take care. Bye-bye. I wonder if Junior Johnson and Percy Flowers ever did, quote-unquote, business together. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe and share this episode. We'll be back with another one very soon.